Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Infinite Me. Every day we're talking about living infinitely and what that actually means to say yes and step into 100% living life, knowing that you are the infinite consciousness moving through you right now. And so I am Mandy, and over there is Nat.
Hello.
So, as you said, each day we show up and we have a conversation about whatever is coming up in the moment. We've got our little infinite lucky dip bag that we've got different topics in there that we pull out to see what today's topic is going to be. So yesterday we talked about saying yes to a feeling that's coming through you quite strongly. So a decision that feels like it's been called to be made and saying yes to that. But then the quote that we had was around saying yes to the decision, but then you have to actually embody the yes. And I can't think what the other part of the quote was, but it was around that actually you have to kind of expand to actually meet the yes now, because it's calling you up to a new way of being that you haven't been before. So you actually have to learn how to sort of be with that new decision and what it's going to bring up for you and call you into. And so the talk was all about that yesterday, about what that looks like when we do feel like we're being called to expand.
Yes.
And and things that can happen along the way. So check out that conversation yesterday. So today we'll pick out a little topic, as I said, from our little infinite lucky dip.
Here we go.
Right today.
What is the topic for Sunday? Day of rest.
Day of rest. But maybe we just won't talk about anything. We'll just interesting. That's just like one word. Love.
Love. Oh, okay. Right then.
I'm trying to think where we put that one in.
That's funny. Love. Right then. Okay. That's cool. All right. Wow.
Yes. So it's a very broad topic.
It's a very broad topic.
So I'm not sure what the context of when we put that one in, what we put it in. I think you might have written that one. But okay.
Oh, God. Let's just talk about love.
I can pick another one if you want more of a defined.
To niche down.
It's funny because there was two that I pulled out this similar time, and I was choosing. When I say choosing, I chose one of them. I didn't look at the topic on them. Okay. But it's actually interesting that the second one that came out is actually got the same. That one. It's good. It was a green one. Here it is. And it was around it's got love in the actual wording.
Okay.
As well, so it might just help us define it.
Topics together. There's a new thing to do.
Here it is. Disappear. Oh, here it is. Yeah, it's called, and it's quite apt to for the love or for the money.
Ooh, okay, all right.
Yeah. So they kind of actually did pull out at the same time. So maybe
they sort of do go together.
Yes, they do.
Okay, let's have a cocktail. It's cocktail hour here. Now we're going to mix the two together.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
It's a bit more definition now. It's good.
I feel like the starting point is the different definitions of love, and that will perhaps give us some context to talk about this.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. It's quite a broad area.
Yeah, and as in our human game, we feel different types of love. Obviously, we have our love from our parents. We have our love from our partner, if we have one. We feel the love of our family, particularly our close-knit family.
Yes.
Then we have the wider circle of our community, those that we really gel with, particularly in the consciousness space, and we really feel that love. And then, I guess beyond all of that is unconditional love. So it's the love that comes from the infinite, from God, from the universe. And there's a lot of people say that you can never truly know what that love actually is in the human form. Like you can never actually have a true 100% experience of that. I think we have glimpses into that, and perhaps that starts with our parents. There is that unconditional love from a parent. Generally, I'm not saying that it's always the case, although I do feel that underneath all the storyline, no matter what is going on in a family situation, there is a degree of unconditional love. How that plays out might certainly look really the opposite to that.
Yes.
You know, and that's because it gets a little bit screwed up in perhaps somebody's upbringing or something like that, and then they have children, and then they don't show that, what doesn't appear like they show unconditional love.
Yes.
But I guess the essence of all of us is unconditional love, because love is actually everything. So it's love really is that neutrality, like we've talked about before. So you have positive and negative, but when you bring it back to neutrality, it actually is love. That sits there. That's the essence of everything.
Yes.
And we experienced this in John's work, didn't we? Where people would go through the whole John Demartini, a whole process type thing. So they might have been raped, or you know, saw a parent murdered, or like some pretty horrendous, horrific things at times.
Yes.
And they'd be working through this process, but the process was to really bring your mind and your brain back into balance. So you're very lopsided about certain, you know, about a person or a situation that took place, and you just can't move past it because you're so negative about it, and you can't find any positive at all. And people would sit there going, I just can't find any positive thing about this at all. Like, it just is all negative. And it's like, no, it's actually not. I know it seems like that, and it would logically, yes, of course it would seem all negative, like out of a rape, or someone got murdered or something. Like, what would possibly be positive out of that? But as we go through this process, and sometimes it takes hours and hours and hours, people actually finally started to bring it back into balance, until they did get to a point where they sat there and went, oh my God, this is like nothing but love there. Like, it was actually the perfect experience that was meant to happen in that moment. Like, that is, I would never have guessed that that could have been the case.
Yes.
And we worked with hundreds of people like this. No matter what they had gone through, they all, if they did the work, all got back to that balance of love. And that's really all that was left. And, you know, love and light type thing. So that really is the essence of everything at the end of the day. Like, that exercise totally proved that to me 100%, that everybody could get back to that space of love.
Yes.
And that was the only words they had in the end was, oh, wow, like, I love you, sort of thing, because they would sit opposite somebody that represented that person that had raped them or had murdered their family or whatever sort of thing. And that's the only words they had left was like, thank you, I love you. And I was like, wow, like, what a breakthrough. Like, you and I both had such an extraordinary experience doing that work.
Yes.
From that.
Yeah, I think like what you're saying is that love, at the end of the day, that emotion of love, well, no, is it an emotion? I'm not sure, actually. It's emotions. I don't know if it kind of feels like love is more an all-encompassing, just an isness, when it's that unconditional love. So I don't know if it's an emotion. I'm not sure, actually. I don't know. Not sure the answer to that. But I
think it can be emotion, but I think unconditional love is not an emotion.
Yeah, that's what I'm feeling. Like, it's
state.
State. That's probably a better word, actually. That's what it's feeling. Because I think when you say emotion, it sort of feels like it's
human.
Yeah, it does feel like it falls into that category of the positive or the negative, but where it's more just an overall state there, like you said, because love can look many different ways. Like, it can look fierce, it can look angry, it can look completely I would say loving, but that's kind of like, it can look happy, it can look joyful. Like, it's all different ways that love actually does show up, depending on the situation and what's being called for in the moment too. But I was just feeling like love is kind of the all-encompassing truth of who we actually are. So there is no thought that comes with love. Like, there's no, from the unconditional love space anyway, there's no thought that comes with it. It's just that feeling that moves through you, and it's just an isness. Like, so if you have to kind of justify it or be thinking about it, then it's kind of already started to be skewed into the ego is kind of skewing it into a story or something attaching to it as well. So it is just that state of, like, I don't need to explain anything in this state. I'm just feeling this all-encompassing energy kind of moving through my body. So kind of like if you watch a really amazing sunset, or you look at a newborn baby or something like that, there is just that sense of connection from that really deep level that kind of, to me, feels like that unconditional love space. That's who we truly all are at our core, from the bigger picture. And so you don't need to explain it to anybody, and it's actually quite hard to put into words, that feeling. but everyone knows it. Like everyone's experienced it on some level, probably at least once, you know, that kind of real unexplainable kind of feeling that's just moving through and it takes over you. From that perspective. But I guess in terms of the topic today, for the love or for the money, sort of my feeling around that is it's that it feels like a very age-old dilemma, I think, look, or at least in our modern day time anyway, probably maybe not so much when, you know, in ancient times maybe, but now that we've got the money system in place, it feels like there's so much more pulling on people these days from a emotional perspective and just like status perspective and all these different things that we feel like we've got to show up in the world a certain way now, and maybe with the advent of like social media, that's probably even sort of compounded that feeling a lot more. I think that people feel a lot more pressure to be a certain way in life, and then when someone says, oh, are you doing it for the love or doing it for the money, it's almost like people sometimes get a bit annoyed with that, because it's like, well, I have to make money, of course, like you can't just do what you love all the time, you know. And it
is quite a common thing people say.
I think it's
imagine if everybody just did what they love, like the whole world would fall apart. So, like, there'd be no one like building the railroads or no one serving at McDonald's. Like,
and it's quite funny because we're trying to come at it from a very limited human perspective. We're looking at it through our own filters, through our own lens of like our belief system and the culture we grew up in and what our parents believe and all that kind of thing too. So it's really like there's nobody on the planet that could have like a absolute what's the word, like uninfluenced view of love or money. I don't think, like, it's always going to come through your lens. So unless you've expanded yourself into enough of a state that you just know yourself as the I am presence constantly, then maybe you might be approximating that feeling of it. But I think everyone's just going to be running it through their own filter. So if you've always grown up in an environment where you were told you had to work hard, you know, maybe even told which profession you should be working at because that one earns more money than this one. And, yeah, so like you should go down the line of being a professional rather than an artist or something like that because artists don't make money, or so all these sort of paradigms that we buy into over time, that all comes into that conversation, if you like, around I can't just do what I love, like I have to earn money, as if they're completely separate concepts. Like it's kind of interesting when you look at it from that angle, that when you look at it from the bigger picture consciousness perspective, money is just an expression of love. So it's there isn't like a story around it when we come at it from that angle, but when we bring it down into the 3D sort of reality, there is a very different sort of divide between the two, as if they're completely separate and you have to choose one over the other. You can't actually have both.
That's what I was just actually looking at. I was just looking at that topic and I went, love or money. I was like, oh, that's really interesting. It's like they're mutually exclusive to each other. And why couldn't it be for the love and money? Like,
and exactly.
And, you know, so many people talk about that as like, if you just do what you love, the money will come type thing. And it's like, how much do we actually believe that? Because whenever it gets down to brass tacks, everybody goes, oh, yeah, I'd really love to do that, but I just don't have the money right now, sort of thing. The reality is I don't have it. It's like, the reality is you don't have it. You're right. That's correct. But that doesn't mean that that's the end of that story. Like it's meant to change at that point, or it could change at that point.
Could change,
and it's interesting. I sort of feel like this has been something for me. Like it's something I've struggled with because
I have too.
Back when I was in the police, the last 7 years of my career with that was actually in VIP protection, and I loved it. Like we were traveling around all the time with all the VIPs and doing really cool stuff that, you know, most people never get to do, and see different things behind the scenes, and just working with some really cool people, but traveling a lot. And whether that contributed to my marriage breakdown, I don't know. I would say it had a big influence on that. And so that fell apart, like my marriage. And so somewhere along the way, I connected actually doing really what I wanted to be doing and what I love doing, with actually losing love and losing a partnership. So I definitely have struggled with that. Since then, I can really sort of going, no, that doesn't mean that, like in every situation. Like you can actually do what you love and still have love in your life, like still have a relationship or a marriage. And yeah, so it's something I've definitely been aware of over the years, that exclusivity of, for the love of money type thing. And I was earning a lot of money back then as well, so I associated that into that equation as well. So if I'm doing what I love and I'm having tons of money, then love will leave me, like relationships will leave me.
Yeah.
And
I think that just demonstrates the, how our own story kind of comes in and actually taints, if you like the truth of love and money. And for me, it would be that I think I've had more of a idea around doing what you love. Kind of, for me, it looks like working for myself rather than working for somebody. Which is fine, like that's all good too. But then I struggled with the overlay of that, of like, oh, it's really hard to work for yourself and you have to think of everything yourself and
do it all yourself.
Yeah, and so there was all this pressure that then I put on myself for like a feeling quite overwhelmed with the ideas I had, but then not quite knowing how to put them out into the world, and probably obviously definitely at the time lack of confidence in myself around putting myself out into the world as well. So all these stories then just like compound, and you start kind of going, well, you can do what you love, but it's really hard to make it work, like, so there's that little story going there. And so it looked like I wasn't making much money from what I was doing. But then on the flip side, there was way more I could have been doing to put myself out there in the world too. But because of the stories I had running, I wasn't doing that. So like, it looks like, the truth of it, if you wanted to say, like, from my perspective, would have been, no, the truth is I'm really trying to do what I love and it's just really hard, or something like to that effect, but it's that's not actually the truth either. Sort of thing. There's all these other lenses that I'm looking at life through, and belief systems that are running beneath that all too. Because at the core of it, I do truly feel like we can just do what we love to do in life. Like, and that for me just feels like you're just being that true expression of what's moving through you. So, and we don't have to equate it. This is probably the other thing that I would do a lot too, is that doing what you love meant your career. So like it equated to work, like, and career. Like there weren't sort of, it wasn't just like do what you love in everything in life. Like that meant, that meant in your recreation time or your hobbies or your relationships. Like it was kind of, it just, to me, equated exactly to work. And so that's how I would look at the world through it. It's like, oh, I'm doing what I love, but it only sort of showed up in the workspace, like, which is odd. So I think that's why the money piece comes in for people too, because I think that's actually quite a big paradigm that people buy into. When they say do what you love, we automatically think career and therefore money, because that's how we usually make money in life. It's not the only way, of course, but it's the majority of people make money through their work or a job or business. Something like that too. So I think
that's an interesting one, like that paradigm. That's really shifting something for me right now, because you're right. It has become so equivalent to your mission or your purpose, or but maybe not in the consciousness space so much their job. And that's all it's been, though. It's never been about taking a bath, or I feel like kicking the ball with the dog right now, or I feel like going for a walk, or I feel like ringing a friend, or having a glass of wine, or like, I don't know. And it's sort of, it's really interesting. Like, I wonder if that really does impact sort of that whole sense of, for the love of money type thing. Like that is interesting.
I'm just thinking of the 𝐾𝐤𝐳, who we've referred to before, who is a comedian turned transformation type teacher now, and he talks a lot about this idea of only doing what he calls tens in our life. So you have a scale of 1 to 10, and on that scale, with 10 being absolute joy, can't wait to wake up in the morning to do that thing. So how many tens do you have in your life of things that you do? So that can be a job or career, but it also means everything that you do in your life. So every activity that you put in your life, every relationship you put in your life, every book you read, like how disciplined can you be with yourself to only allow your focus on the things that truly light you up in a 10? And then you said, like, and then watch your life actually morph completely around you when you actually let yourself do that. So to me, that kind of fills that space of doing what you love. Like that's kind of what that to me feels what it actually means, is that allowing yourself to only do the things that truly light you up. Like if everybody on the planet only did the things that they were absolutely inspired to do, then you would feel fulfilled, and we wouldn't have all this other stuff that goes on, like these power games and the you know, I've got more influence than you, and even down to wars and things like that. It's just like if everyone was truly fulfilled in what they were doing and they weren't looking for more all the time outside of ourselves, then it would you know, kind of look like a utopia, what people sort of think maybe it wouldn't be possible. But how do we actually know? Because we've never actually done it. So it's like it's kind of we're sort of judging something that hasn't actually existed at this point in time. But how could we make that our own life, which is what we're sort of talking about everything here with the infinite me, and definitely the thing that Nat and I have been embarking on the last 2 or 3 months is like trying to do that as much as we can. I say try sometimes because it sneaks in sometimes, because you sort of convince yourself sometimes that I really love this thing. But in the words of like what 𝐾𝐤𝐳 would say, it's just like even a 9.75 is not a 10. Like it's got to be, you've got to be really honest with yourself, like about, does that actually fulfill that for you? Because if you've got to say a job that's a 9, it's still good. Like it still looks really good, like, and it feels fulfilling, but it's not that 10. Like there is still that compromise that you're making, if you like, to not go full in to thinking that you can have a 10 life. Like you're still, part of you is doubting it, if you like it's not that. So yeah, it's just interesting because it is kind of challenging, like to people, and I've watched him take people through different processes when he's kind of really questioning them on those things about how would you rate this and how would you rate that, and it's really challenging for someone to let go of a 9 thing because it still feels really good. So your logical mind wants to kind of go, but this is silly. Like, why would I give up a well-paying job that I actually really like and I like the people there? And but he's like, but maybe your heart is calling you to go and write a book and give up that job. But then we kind of go, but then I wouldn't have money, you know. So that's when the story starts to come in, and it's not about the story, it's how much can we stay in our heart about what that 10 is and actually just let it go for the consciousness now to start moving through us and show up like what it's going to show up through us, because we've actually chosen our heart over the money or our head, the thing, what the logical thing seems to do.
This is really landing for me right now. Like we've talked about this a number of times. I just talked about Kyle's thing yesterday at doing a 10 and not a 9.5.
I did too, I can't remember.
I feel like I'm just really getting it right now in terms of it goes for everything. Like I really have been putting it into my work only.
I think I have been too. That's
and then we compromise on everything else. It's like and I just haven't brought awareness to those other parts of my life enough to question, is this a 10 right now? Like all I have to do is ask that question, is this a 10 right now? And then have the answer come up and go, no. It's like, oh, what could I be doing that would be a 10 right now? What would I love to do? And I do ask myself the question, like, what would I love to do right now? Like if I feel really unmotivated or a little bit stuck on what the next step might be, whether that is doing work or I'm just sitting there and I've got, it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I've really got nothing going on type thing. It's like, oh, what would I like to be doing right now? And generally something will come through about sort of, oh, when you go sit in the sun or go and, read a book or whatever. But yeah, just really questioning that a lot more. It's like I can just, now I'm really getting that, like how important that actually is.
I think it's one of those things that you have to hear over and over again.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't seem to be our natural way. I mean, I think it is at the core our natural way of being, but
it is our natural way.
Yeah, but our
learnt way.
3D reality we live in and society kind of, it doesn't look that way. So that's what we've been trained in. That's what we've been trained to believe and think that way, and it gets reinforced all around us. So it's kind of it feels unnatural to think in that way. Like, oh, I can only do a 10 because then our mind wants to tell us that, oh, well, but what about all these other things? You can't just walk away from your responsibilities, or you can't just do so all the stories that come up, or maybe somebody else tells you that, like you hear that from the outside. But it's more like, how much can you step into it and be in the unknown? Like if we all, believe on some level or feel the truth that we are infinite beings and we're an expression of that infinite being, then when, you know, are we putting our money where our mouth is, if you like, and kind of jumping fully into that, going, you know what, I'm only going to show up and do those things, and I'm going to see what happens. And not from that perspective of like, I need the universe to prove it to me, but maybe there is a bit of that in the beginning. Like you kind of like, you know what, I'm going to keep choosing this over and over again. And, you know, because sometimes, because it will probably bring up a whole bunch of stuff that's got to move out of the way. Like, you know, as we've talked about many times in different talks, is that it's going to bring up everything that's a limitation in the way of you stepping fully into that new energy. So it looks sometimes like things fall apart, or maybe it's not working out the way you think it's going to work out, but we don't know the ultimate sort of plan, if you like, of how it's all going to unfold. And that's what I guess the excitement around that is to us, is like, well, if you only stepped in and did purely what you love, then it's only the ego part of us that actually feels like it's not working out, or it's not like going to plan, or it looks like it's falling apart, or this is happening, but it's only, and the timing of it sometimes too, we think it should happen faster, or all those sort of things that come up. But probably when we lean into it, like, we're completely fulfilled on a soul level. Like, it feels so expansive to do a 10 activity. So whether that could just be painting or something, letting yourself just paint for the sake of painting without an outcome, or needing to know how it's going to come out. And like, when you get so absorbed in something that you're purely doing because you love it, then nothing else matters in that moment. So it's almost like that. It's just like, we've already had experiences of what that feels like. So what if we could string the whole 24 hours of a day like that together, where you just constantly felt like in that space? It almost feels like, oh, I don't know if could do that, or something. Like, maybe you haven't built the capacity to feel that much sort of fulfillment and joy too. So it probably is a growth process as well, just to move into that.
Right in the beginning.
And
It's
into it more.
It's interesting with the money stuff. Like, you were just saying before, like, most people have money come through their job, and then we sort of feel like, if I do this particular work, or any work, this is exchange obviously for hours for money, and I get money. So we do then, and rightly so, it looks as if in the storyline our money comes from our work all the time. There's some sort of exchange going on to get that money, and some sort of work, some sort of effort and stuff like that. But what we forget is it actually comes from the infinite in the first place. My screen's actually quite a lot more narrow.
It's narrow.
By now, after like 80 something.
Your microphone is just hitting your zip, I think, a little bit too.
So we then have a context that's where it always comes from, sort of thing. And we don't sort of think beyond that of like, well, where did that come from? It's like, it always comes from the infinite. If the infinite is everything, it has to come from there in the first place. So it is coming from that energy of love in the first place, because that's all that energy is, of the infinite, of God, of the universe, is just love. There's nothing else. So it is like, money has to be the energy of love in its rawest form, and then it comes through a job. In the storyline, it has to come into reality somehow or another, because it's energy at the end of the day. So the only way it comes into form for us to use it in this 3D reality is it's got to come through something. It's got to come through a channel of some description.
Yes, true.
Generally, because we expect to see it come through a job. That's how it shows up. If you were to expand your expectations and possibility of where it could come from, then it starts to come from all sorts of places. And we have talked about this in different times, where I've walked past an ATM and there was $50 sitting in that ATM. Someone had forgotten somehow or another to take out that extra $50. From an ATM. I just walked past and went, okay, that's really cool. It shows up all over the place, money in the gutter, or
attached to it.
Under the couch, like money in your pocket that you forgot you had, and suddenly you go to your jacket pocket and it's like, there's $50, and it's like, oh god, like, that's amazing. Like, we've had all sorts of things show up, just money in our account show up, it's like, okay, I don't know where that came from. Like, what did we just sell? Like, and then you go back and it's like, it doesn't actually appear like we sold anything. It's just like some sort of random affiliate thing. And there was one just recently, I was like, couldn't account for it at all. It was like $20, but it was like, just couldn't account for it at all. And I have still to this day don't know where it came from. And it's just like, that's cool. That's playing the infinite game, the money game. But to me, that just indicates that you've got that expanded stepping into the total unknown, and quite happy to play in that space because it's just fun. And it's like, then it can start showing up in different places for you. But yeah, then sort of it does come through the job aspect, I suppose. So it can, so money is love at its essence. It's not love or money. Money actually is love at its rawest form and its rawest essence. So just not forgetting that.
Yeah, and I think in terms of that statement, the way it's put there, like for the love or for the money, it's probably putting it in the vein of how we normally think about it. So, okay, we've just talked about sort of redefining what that looks like. But if we were just to take it from the context of how most people think about that statement, it feels like a choice, like you said, that we can't have both, but also love feels like it's that real heart-based, people would say, oh, that's kind of living in fantasy land. And if I had my ideal life, yes, I could live that way. Whereas money kind of falls into the 3D logical, this is what you just have to do. Like, this is just how it is. So it's definitely, that's where it kind of feels like a stupid choice, if you like, for people, because it's like, well, of course I have to make money. Like, of course I would love to do what I want to do, but I have to make money. So it feels very true, like, because in your story, that's how it showed up. Like, you haven't allowed yourself to step into the thing that you love to do, or maybe you kind of did, but then it gets hijacked by the paradigms and the beliefs and all that kind of thing. And if we don't give them any sort of attention and sort of see what they're actually bringing up in us, then of course they will run your story and it will look like it's true. You say, oh, well, but this is what happened. I started a business that I loved and it didn't make money. And so we collect all this evidence to kind of validate that I need to make money in the world. And of course, it's all reinforced by society outside of us too, that feeling that we have to do that. That we're sort of obliged to follow that line too, and only very special people get to do what they love. So it's just like, well, what if we were to flip it around, like actually look at it from that bigger picture perspective of what it actually means? Because like you said, it's not an or, it's not an either or thing. It is actually the same. But that statement kind of indicates like they are two separate things, and we have to make a choice, which would only be coming from, the ego limited space to be looking at it from that perspective. Whereas from the infinite consciousness, there's no separation between the two. You do what you love and money will come to you because it's a form of expression. So it's going to come to you in whichever form it's going to come. Like, as you said, it can come from all different aspects. So it's the same energy. It's just another expression of love at the end of the day. So
it's certainly interesting having a money game here in this human game. Like, it's probably the one that brings up the most
definitely
emotion, a positive and negative emotion in people, because it's so linked to our survival and our natural human mechanism for survival in every form, like air, water, food, shelter, like all those basic needs and stuff. Money has been linked into that because that determines whether you can actually buy those things. Not buy air, but it's so it does feel so crucial to our survival here on planet Earth that it puts people almost into panic mode when you don't have it, and there's a possibility of it being taken away or a portion of it taken away. Like, it really brings up that raw emotion of panic. And when you go through a stage of not having it, and Jodie and I have definitely been there many times.
I have too.
Down to pennies, like literally. And it's like, wow, it's really interesting. You actually get quite comfortable in that space. Like, it actually is not that big a deal when you don't have it. And not saying everybody has to go to that experience or to that degree, but it definitely is an interesting experience to have, because if you can be just really comfortable in that space, you have to plug in, you have to connect back to the infinite at that point, because you've got nothing else.
It's almost like having no money is it's giving you an experience of having to tap into your inner resources, because you have to start relying on yourself then, like your inner self, like, because it's not coming from the outside anymore. So it's almost like it does seem like a bit of a stage that people do sometimes go through in the spiritual journey too. It's almost like, as you said, getting comfortable with being supposedly having nothing. Like, it's kind of how much can you believe then you're the infinite and tap into your inner feeling that's coming through you, rather than relying on an outside circumstance to prove who you are and what your worth is and what it makes you mean in the world too. So it's giving you a chance to sort of redefine who you are, I think. Yeah, I've definitely felt that when I've been in that space too. It's like, wow, I have to start really sort of getting creative now with how I'm doing things.
It makes you very present too, because you really do have to sit there and go, am I okay right now?
Like, true.
I've got everything I need right now in this moment. I've got a roof over my head. I've got food I can eat. I'm actually okay. I was like, but obviously when you get to that panic stage of the money, it's always about the future projection. Even if it's like 5 minutes time, it's like, but what if, like, you know, I get to lunchtime, I don't have any food, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. And like, just all this stuff starts coming up. Like, it's so
what about that bill that's due in 2 weeks' time? Like, we start projecting out.
It's like, you're not at that stage. Like, and then Jodie and I had to really pick ourselves up on that. And it's like, but we're not at that. We're not in 2 weeks' time, so it doesn't matter. Like, who knows what's going to happen in 2 weeks' time? I don't know. We're not there yet. So it's like, you have to be so present in that space.
Yes.
And really tapping into, you know what, I'm actually okay right now. And that's all that matters.
Yes.
So
and we don't know where money's going to come from. Like you said, at the end of the day, the more we can stay in that presence and actually feel what's coming up for us, like by having no money, because that's the experience you're actually being given, is to actually address the feelings that are coming up. Or low money. Maybe you don't have to have absolutely zero in your bank account, but less than what you feel comfortable with. It doesn't really matter what that figure is. For some people, that's $100,000. Like, it's all relative to the person, how much that figure is that feels like they have nothing. But if we can sit in presence and sit with that feeling that's coming through us, the fear, and what's showing up, and address that, then that's what it's inviting you to do in that moment. By having nothing, supposedly, is to actually release that feeling and story around that. And then the more we can stay in presence, that's when our outside story can actually change quite dramatically, when we've let go of the expectations and the projections and the beliefs and the stories all around it too. So
definitely. Yvonne's in the house. Welcome, Yvonne.
Hello.
Good to see you. But what if you're doing what you love and don't believe money is something you can have? Interesting.
Do what you love and don't believe money is something you can have. So is that coming from the angle that, so is that basically saying that whole statement that we've been saying about you, like, it's, are you doing it for the money, or are you doing it for love? It's sort of almost, to me, feels like there is that separation still going on, that belief, like, I can't make money just doing what I love. I'm not sure if I've got that correct or not. Is that your sort of interpretation?
I'm just wondering whether is there still belief sitting there that's all they are, is just belief sitting there that say you can't have money. Like, so you've stepped up and you're doing what you love, and I know you're doing some coaching right now, but then you've got an underlying belief that doing that particular project, then you actually won't have money coming in, you won't make money from it. So, but it sounds like it's the starving artist. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, good.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so that to me, I mean, I totally get that paradigm because of designer, graphic designer background. Yeah, so I definitely can tap into that state of that artist. You know, it's been driven so much through society, that idea that artists just are the ones that are quite whimsical and they get to do what they love to do, but they have to beg for money almost. Like, it's that kind of and it's just like I had to really kind of address that one for myself, because it's so not true. It is literally just a belief system that we've bought into, that for some reason being an artist, and whatever that looks like, whatever that expression of being an artist is, that form of creativity, is like, it's less valuable than something else. Like, it's kind of, you have to start questioning why you actually think is that actually even true? Like, it's, you know, how come a plumber can show up and charge a call out fee without actually having done anything? You know, they can show up to your house and charge you a fee to actually just come to your house and do nothing. But as an artist, you have to do a whole bunch of concepts and everything else and not actually charge for that. Like there's all these sort of stories that go around, you know, it's just like, is that actually true? Are we just perpetuating that myth by keep showing up like that too? And to me, it kind of looks like you'll always get that outside reflection. So so what you're saying, Yvonne, there, like people that you've coached that probably fall into that category, to me, it really reflects my belief system around that people don't have money too. I've had to watch myself on this one as well, because I've had experiences of not having a lot of money. Sometimes I've then projected that on when I've gone to charge for jobs. I'll be going, oh, well, I shouldn't charge that much because they probably won't be able to afford that much. And it's just like, well, that's kind of really arrogant that I'm sort of putting my belief system onto somebody else outside of me, that they won't be able to afford it, kind of thing. But it wasn't coming from an angle of going, oh, I'm really expensive, so like they should just pay me, like they're going to think I'm overcharging them. It was actually coming from a lack of self-worth on my part, that I didn't think I was valuable enough, so therefore they wouldn't be able to pay it or something. Like it's a really warped, you know, thought process when you actually look at it, and that's what all belief systems are usually pretty flawed when we look at them. They don't actually logically make sense. But it is just for me, it was literally just looking at it over and over again and keep bringing awareness to it and bringing the truth to what actually is, and look for evidence outside of me that how that's actually not true. Plenty of people
artists are actually making a shit ton of money.
Yeah, very good
out of their art. Like how many millions of dollars you go into an art gallery. I remember going to Sydney Art Gallery, and it's like black painting with a little green square in the corner. And it was like worth millions of dollars. It's like, you are kidding, aren't you? Like seriously. So I mean, which way do you go with it? Like starving artist or someone that's actually just really clever at making money? Like it's like, why is there a difference between those two things? A street performer that's not earning much money and somebody that just made millions of dollars from probably that's something that took them a day to paint. You know, it's sort of, to me, it's just become a social paradigm. Like it's just starving artist. Like it's just such a throwaway line that a lot of artists have bought into it, and it's almost a cop-out. To me, it's a bit of a cop-out. It means you're staying in your comfort zone because it's always easier to not charge people than to charge people. Because it feels comfortable. Like nobody likes charging people high amounts of money and stuff like that, unless you really feel into that, like, and you really do the work on yourself to actually feel your self-worth and feel the worth of what you're putting out to the world. And, you know, in terms of value at the end of the day, it's all just so subjective. Like
it is. Definitely.
When an art gallery buys a painting for $1 million, or they pay, or no one will pay $5 for it on Etsy. Like, what's the difference? It's sort of like, it's all just arbitrary value that we're putting on stuff. So therefore it has to come from the person that created it in the first place, and how their energy behind it of like, this is worth this. Like, and I'm actually okay with that price. Take it or leave it. Like you want it or you don't. So to me, it really is that internal thing. We can only change our reality. What's already created and manifested can only change from the internal. It can't be actually changed from the external. So it has to be from your own self-worth and what you feel your value is on particular things. You know, you see this in everything. It's not just, you know, pieces of art and things like that. It's like courses. People will put out, two different people will put out courses. One charges $50 for it. The other charges $3,000 for it. It's like, what's the difference? Okay, there might be some content difference and stuff like that, but there's a big difference in price there. So it has to be based on that person's approach to it. And what they want to charge for it.
Their belief in themselves and their own sense of value. And if you don't fully believe that you can charge $3,000 for a program, then you'll get lots and lots of money objections to people not signing up as well. So that's kind of, it is always coming from the inside. Like, as much as it looks like, oh no, this is the way society is, we have to always remember that it's coming from the inside out. Like it's always our reflection.
Society is your reflection at the end of the day.
As much as that kind of goes, well, I didn't create like all these artists and things like that's the logical mind will definitely say that. But from the bigger consciousness perspective, it's all a projection of our own mind. So if we believe that we're in a society where artists can't make money or we can't do what we love and all that type of thing, and that's what we'll keep getting evidence of. Like, it'll keep showing up like that.
We'll have friends that are starving artists. We'll have we'll go to exhibitions where nothing sells. Like, the outside world will 100% give you the evidence of what you believe, because it's trying to wake you up. And it's not just to fuck you off. It's actually
punish you or anything.
It's to wake you up and go, this is what your belief system is. Like, what you're seeing in the outside world is exactly your belief system. So if you want that outside world to change,
a reflection of your inner world.
Do the work.
Yeah.
Got to do that work, the inner work.
Yes. I think so too. And I think that doing what we've spoken about before, this concept of only doing something because you purely want to do it for you as well, and we take the focus off the outside world and being of service and all that type of concepts that we talk about a lot, especially in the spiritual community, like of being of service to people. It has to come from the inside. Like, you have to do things purely because you love to do them. That's how your outside world will change the fastest, if you like. Like, it's kind of because you're in the natural flow of actually consciousness, like when you can come from that space and make it about yourself from that perspective, about I'm going to express myself in the way that I want to express. I don't care how it lands for somebody else. That's when you'll actually be able to tap into the most creativity and the most potential, and then you'll end up producing something that's of high value to somebody else outside of you, because it's a reflection of what's going on the inside of you. So you do it for you, but you get that validation, if you like, from the outside, in the form of someone paying you for that, or saying, oh, wow, I want to pay you more, that you should be charging more, or however that, or more clients, or whatever that looks like on the outside. You start to get that happening in your world because you've changed your inner story, because it's only coming from there at the end of the day. So,
I think it's, Sharon was just saying that that's resonating with them.
My next project.
Yeah, very cool. There's another one there. I don't think it's what you think it's worth. It's what someone is prepared to pay. It's not about how good you are, about how good your marketing is. It's reading your target market. It's interesting with pricing. People get really stuck on this. And I think because it brings up so many stories, it's like suddenly the mind starts thinking, what would someone pay for it? What's my audience going to be like? Where are they in the financial status type thing?
Yes.
How much effort went into it? What would somebody value it at? All those sorts of things come in. But at the end of the day, you actually know yourself what it's worth. So there'll be a price point that you'll hit. And sometimes when you get really intuitive, you'll just go, bang, it's $8.88 or it's $37. Like, you'll just know. But while you're still learning that process, I guess, of feeling into the actual price for that thing, and trying to move past the stories, often a good exercise is actually do the higher or lower exercise. So it's like, have somebody approach you and go,
resonant pricing,
what is it? So it's like, is it $250 higher or lower? No, it feels higher. Okay. $500 higher. All right. $700 no, lower. Okay. $600 lower. And then so eventually you're going to hit this point, and it's like, okay, that's what it feels like. That
feels true for in your body.
And you can use what's the thing?
Muscle testing.
Kinesiology. Your body knows what the price is. It's a pure reflection of consciousness. So you can use kinesiology as well, and you can look up YouTube videos on how to do that. But oftentimes it can be just standing there saying and it's got to be a yes or no for it to your body to actually respond yes or no to it. But, oftentimes you can stand there and somebody will ask you a question that's true, 100% true, like, is your name Natalie? And you might move forward. Or for you, it might be back or might be to the side. So you've got to test it out to see which way your body is responding to a yes and which way it's responding to a no. And you do a few ones where you know what the answer is.
Yes.
And then you can ask the question.
Or have somebody ask you sometimes is a good way to do it.
Yes, is often better. And your body will move in the direction of a yes or a no. So you can do that for higher or lower as well. And actually work out what the pricing is. You can do it for anything. But eventually you do get to know the feeling inside your body of, this is a yes, this is a no, it should be higher, should be lower, whatever.
Yes.
But that's often a really good way of doing it. So
and then you might have to grow into that too. Like, that might be a new comfort level for you to set your price at that point as well too. So it doesn't, Yeah, because it's easy then for people to say, oh, but I feel like I'm worth $500 an hour, but nobody's going to pay me that. But it's like, okay, but that's still a reflection of where you're at. Like, it's, I know it's really easy to logically look at it and kind of go, no, but this is what the target market wants to pay. And it's just like, yeah, but if everything is a reflection of us at the end of the day, then we haven't moved into that space enough. We haven't embodied that space. It's kind of like what we talked about yesterday, that whole thing about you've got to then embody that new feeling that's coming through you. And we might not be at that space yet. So it might resonate in our body at $500 for charging for a piece of artwork or something, but we might not have caught up to that yet. Like, we might not have expanded ourselves enough or created enough inner space yet, but that feeling to feel like, yeah, I feel at home with that. I feel that's value for me, like that's a pure reflection of where I'm at. So until we catch up to that, it can still look like on the outside, oh, that's still too expensive, or we're getting sort of pushback, if you like. And it's like, well, just keep using that as a guide to see what feelings it's bringing up within inside you, so that you keep moving through those limitations that are sitting there, rather than going, oh yeah, see, I told you the market wouldn't pay that price, and kind of we have to be really vigilant for what's coming up and where we let ourselves buy into stories that aren't actually true, and question them all, and always use things as that reflection of where you're truly at, like feeling what it's bringing up for you, what the story is bringing up for you, not what it looks like is happening on the outside, like, and using that as our barometer of the truth kind of thing. Like, yeah, it always comes back to us. And it sounds like, keep beating the same drum, but it's always everything at the biggest, highest level it's always a reflection of our inner world. So like, it always comes back to that. Every sort of argument we come up with, oh, but what about this situation? What about that situation? It's like, it's the same answer. And I know it's really annoying to the ego to sort of hear that, but it's the truth at the end of the day. And we have to keep putting our attention on the truth. That's that's the thing that's going to actually break through these limitations for us, so that we start to change our outside story then from the inside.
Yeah, definitely. And at the end of the day, whoever has the most certainty will win the game. So when somebody does walk into the art gallery with their $1 million piece and they feel it on every level that it's worth $1 million, then that's what they'll get paid, because they've got certainty around that. And you can feel that, like, when you've met somebody that's got absolute certainty about a particular thing, something that really resonates for them, then you don't question that. And that goes for price on something as well, like how much their services are worth. And we've all probably paid huge amounts for high priced products, or a program or a course or something like that somebody's put out. That's why do you resonate with that? Like, are you willing? You may not even know the person that well. Why are you willing to pay that price? It's like, because that person is 100% okay with the price that they're putting on it, and they know it's worth every freaking cent of it. And I'm not just talking about because they've convinced themselves of that. It's because they feel it. They've done the inner work to really feel that.
And it also could come back to like an expectation that we have set up in society too, that we play that game too. So we automatically assume that doctors should be paid lots of money. Lawyers can charge lots of money.
Surgeons get even more.
So it's kind of like that's kind of rules, if you like, that we've got going in, like automatic assumptions that we've got going in society too. But actually, who says that is actually the truth either? Like, who is actually saying that's the way it is? Because there's probably plenty of doctors that might not feel overly confident. Like, I'm sure not every single person feels like they're the best doctor in the world, but they still are able to charge that sometimes because of just the paradigm that we've got going in society as well. So like, there's all different things at play. Like the starving artist thing is definitely a big paradigm that
it's
people
sort of like
bought into, and it keeps getting reinforced because people keep buying into it too. So it's like, okay, when do we stop playing that game is when we'll start changing that as well. So are we going to make a choice to stop playing that game and believing that that's actually the truth, and see what it's bringing up for us and actually start embodying that, so then we can start to shift our outside world. Even if every other artist in the world still can't play that game, it doesn't mean that we can't shift that. Like, it's
that's very true. And that's it. Like, I guess in society we've set up that something to do with the legal system or the medical system, like, because they study so much, that they should get their worth back. Like, maybe that's where it came from, I don't know, but somehow or another that became a thing. If you're in the legal fraternity, like a solicitor or a lawyer or a barrister, a judge, you're going to get paid, shit ton of money.
To me, it's
medical,
power,
more specialists, Yeah.
To me, it feels like it's linked to power, like that somebody that knows the body and can heal the body has a lot of power, or in the legal system, they have a lot of power to decide
Freedom.
Freedom
You're
for
deciding on
people.
people's freedom.
Yeah, and rules that people can live by. And so it's almost like we've put our power outside of ourselves in those people, and so therefore they can charge as a reflection, they can charge that money and get paid it because people don't question it. So it's all that reflection of what's going on as well. So there's all these different things going on at the same time, multi-layered sort of things happening that we all have to kind of pull ourselves out of and see what's actually going on and what's bringing up at the end of the day too. So yeah,
it's interesting. We haven't put on much value onto art, even though art generally comes from the infinite, like it's a direct reflection of the infinite. So, and creativity, like that's who we are at our essence. It's actually flipped around, like it's actually the opposite to what it should be. Like artists should actually be being paid the highest amount of money, because that is that bringing into reality, 3D reality, the actual direct reflection of infiniteness. So whereas all the head stuff of the medical fraternity and legal, like I don't have a lot of credence on the medical fraternity, because I think there's just a whole bunch of bullshit in there. And I feel like the body can heal itself, generally speaking. I'm not saying you never go to a doctor or a surgeon or whatever, but the body has so much more power than what we give it. But we put all our power in the doctors and the medical fraternity, and we've forgotten how powerful we actually are. And we're quite willing to pay the dollars instead of looking to ourselves to fix that. So, but anyway, that's another story. Cool. This is very cool. Like that was a good topic.
I think it's a big topic. I mean, there might even be more to talk about on this topic too. It's kind of one of those things that it is a very big thing. Like money is such a huge thing to tackle, and love as well too, and putting them together. It's kind of like a very big conversation to have. So so let us know in the comments if there's something else that you feel coming up for you, that another question around it, or different way of looking at it, or you can kind of understand what we're saying. Maybe you're not at that point yet. Like, I mean, I'm definitely saying there's things I'm working on around all that too. So it's always a reflection of where we're currently at in our consciousness and our awareness as well. So yes, let us know how this all lands for you too. How do you interpret that love and money statement, if you like? You can do what you love and get paid as well. So
very cool. Thank you everyone that joined us live. We had Sharon, Louise, Sheridan, Lois, Shantina. Thank you very much. It was great to have you along. And we'll see everyone again tomorrow. We'll be back with another infinite topic. In the meantime, it's love and money. Let's do that instead. Let's create a new paradigm.
Sounds good.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. See you tomorrow.